I remember days they used to laugh at me. Used to show them on my records talking casually. Used to say it was a passion on my path to be. Then they told me that I couldn't, so I had to be. Tell me what they really think about it now. Used to hate it, but I guarantee they're proud. Had to do it just to show them that I could, yeah. Now I finally think I took it where I should, yeah. Had a jokes on you and now you're on and laughing. I did a whole lot of winning. Look, it came from a passion. I see a whole lot of no ones I could see now in public. And that may think a lot of things, man. At least think something, now you the judge. And now tell me where you ended up. Yeah. Look, I bet it was a simple job. Yeah. Look, I went and took a different route. Yeah. Look, that's why my life is different now. Back in my feelings, look, when I wasn't so gifted and I was learning to do this, and all I heard were the critics, and I don't blame you for that shit. Look, I was way out the basis, but I just needed some talent so I could wait this to greatness. Oh yeah, you ain't ever think this, no, no, no. Stop me while I started, homie, whoa, whoa, whoa. Now this shit settled, it's go better and better, but I'll always remember, yeah, yeah.
So we're in Austin, That1 Podcast at the OWN headquarters. Go get your username if you haven't already. Get on the platform, get your username. You're going to own all your content on this platform. It's a great idea. And but we had to get our usernames, and I want you to get your username. So go do that as soon as possible. Mackenzie got.
I feel like Mikey's a little jealous that I got at Mackenzie.
Yeah, I wanted to get at Mike, but I didn't think about that. So I went with my consistency, Mikey C-Roc. So we're here with Ryan Deiss. I met Ryan. Well, I didn't meet him. I saw Ryan speak at 2019 Growth Con at Marlin Stadium. Grant Cardone had this big vision to do his 10X Growth Con in a baseball stadium. And so that was my first introduction to 10X and Grant Cardone. And I didn't know Ryan at the time, but he pops on stage and dude, he's just so lively. And I don't know how many times you did that talk, or I know it wasn't like that, and we'll get into that. But dude, he's just amazing. Like I was captivated, and I'm not just saying that because you're here. And so I had a friend Preston introduce us when we were coming down to Austin, and I had to have you in here, man, and introduce you to Kinz and our audience. So
thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And that was the first time I had given that talk, not just like that way, but I don't think I've ever given the same talk twice, which would make this is not good advice. If you're a public speaker, you should give the same talk again and again and again. I just get so bored with it that I have to change it up, which is terrible advice. So don't take my advice, public speakers.
What do you tell people? Because they always say like the number one fear amongst people speaking in public. So have you ever had that fear? Or what do you tell people that need to get out there and like push through?
Every single time, I'm afraid. 100% of every time. And I think if you're not, then it either doesn't matter, or you have some type of mental condition that you should probably...
You're psychotic.
Let's be honest. Like, the stakes are really high. If you screw up, you're going to screw up miserably in front of a lot of people, and that sucks. And I know it sucks because I've done it. And so the first, when I first got into speaking, it wasn't... I never desired to be a public speaker or a public figure at all. I am in business for the money. I am not in this thing for the fame.
See, I like that you're just vulnerable with that, like, transparent. Yeah, we work because we want to live. And exactly.
Yeah, I just got... But, like... I was very early on the internet, and so there weren't a lot of people doing it and talking about it, and somebody invited me to speak at an event, and I was young and dumb enough to think I could do it. And so I said, sure, I'll do it. And I remember I went and gave this talk, and I remember thinking about 10 minute in, this isn't very good. Which isn't what you want.
Which is not like the vibe in your head.
Thought. Like, I don't know if you've got any like golfers, but like it's like having a bad swing thought like in your backswing. It's not gonna get better.
Or if you're like boring yourself. Yeah. That's not good, right? You're like, okay, yeah.
So I start kind of spiraling in my head, and I'm like, maybe it's okay, maybe it's okay. I finish my talk, everybody, claps because that's what you do. And I'm coming off stage, I'm like, okay, I think I pulled it off. I think it was okay. The first person walks up to me like, oh, they must have a question for me. And it was just this delightful Australian gentleman who said, hey, you know that was shit, right? And I just went, yeah, I do. But then something cool happened. I just kept right on living. And I think what was nice about it is my first attempt was a pretty significant, miserable failure. And it was okay. I remember, I remember going to the bathroom after that, had to pee. But I didn't I was embarrassed to go to the urinal. Because I'm like, I don't know if this is the case with like ladies at events, but like in the bathroom, the only dude's like, man, that last session kind of sucked, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't want to go in there because after my session, they're all going to be talking about how badly it sucked because it does. And so I went in the stall and like, sure enough, dude was like, man, that last session was pretty rough. And I was like, yeah. And it was like, and then they instantly went off and started talking about somebody else. And that's when I realized I just don't matter that much. And so the best advice that I can give anybody doing anything who's afraid of anything is to appropriately place yourself in the universe and realize how utterly insignificant you actually are.
I love that.
If
I
you
love
will
that.
just remember that, you're probably going to be okay. But eventually, if you do it long enough and poorly enough, you do get pretty good at it.
Yeah, I was saying people are usually worried about themselves, and they think about you this much, and then they move on to the next thing, right?
Yeah. I'm not going to say any names, but no. I dealt with this too. Like I started to realize the short-term memory of people is a superpower to be aware of, right? And so, Ryan, how did you start to get into marketing? And like you said, it was like you were one of the first in that. What were you doing before you started? And then what was the catalyst to get you into digital marketing or email or whatever you started with?
I made my first sale online in 1999. I was 19 years old. So what I was doing before then, I guess, was eating baby food. And I started my first business from my freshman college dorm room because I met a girl. I was here, we're in Austin right now, was going to school at the University of Texas at Austin, met a girl, and I knew within the first couple weeks of dating, like, this is the one. This is the woman that I'm going to marry.
This has been a repetitive thing throughout the podcast. So we had a gentleman, the author, and Corey, and he proposed after 5 weeks. I mean,
well, I want to be clear.
Interesting.
I didn't tell her that.
You knew.
I knew that was freaking creepy. So I did not want to go there because I knew that was going to be just a little bit creepy. So I decided to kind of keep it to myself. But internally, I knew this is the one. Probably going to marry her one day. Oh crap, I'm broke. I need to make some money. How do I make some money? The internet was a thing. I bet I could probably figure out a way to sell some things on the internet. And so the first thing I decided I was going to do was actually start a web design company. Now, I didn't know how to design websites, but I figured if I got a client, I could learn.
Sure.
I'm sure there's a lesson in there somewhere in that. But my very first client was actually a lactation consultant.
Oh.
Now,
I did not expect you to say that. And I love it.
I have 4 kids. My wife nursed all of them. I have nothing but love and admiration and appreciation for lactation consultants and nursing mom. I think it's great. That said, at 19 years old, it was a little rough. It was a little. My roommate's thinking I'm into kind of some creepy stuff. You know? And so, but unfortunately, she wasn't able to. The economy shifted. Her husband lost a job. She lost his job. She wasn't able to keep that business going, and so she wasn't able to pay me. But this woman was brilliant, and I mean that. She was really, really, really smart. She decided and had the realization that once a mother weaned, they didn't need her anymore. Once the baby weaned, they didn't need her anymore. So she wanted to expand into all childhood nutrition. Okay. And so she wrote an ebook on how to make your own baby food.
Okay.
And so what she did is in payment, because she couldn't pay me for building a website that she no longer needed, she gave me this ebook on how to make your own baby food and said, maybe you can sell it and make some money. And I remember thinking, thanks.
Great.
What the hell am I supposed to do with this thing? But I did some research, and sure enough, again, this is 1999. There's an Amazon, but there's no Kindle.
Right.
Nobody was selling. I mean, and to rank. By the way, we weren't even trying to rank in Google.
Right.
To rank in Alta Vista and Dogpile. All you had to do was put your keywords. The big growth hack, the big digital marketing growth hack back then, was you put all the keywords you wanted to rank for at the bottom of the page. You ready for this? Prepare to have your mind blown. And then you made the words the same color as the background so people couldn't see them. That was the big 1999 growth hack.
That was it. Yeah. Interesting.
So it was super easy to do it. But
yeah.
I remember putting up a very simple website to sell this ebook. It was 28 pages. I decided I'd sell it for $14. 50 cents per page seemed like a good deal to me. And I remember the first sale that came through. And I was like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Money just fell from thin air, and all I could think is, what if I sold 10 of these a day? What if I had 10 of these websites all selling 10 of these a day? And by the time I graduated, I had a little over 100 stupid little websites selling little products on the internet, and that kind of never looked back.
That's incredible. And that's how I was born.
Yeah, that's how I was born. And I did, fast forward, I mean, I got the ring, I got the girl, 22 years and 4 kids later. I did eventually tell her that she was the woman I thought I should marry, but that was much later in our relationship.
Well, that goes to give hope to women, because men do know then. They do know that that's the one. They love that. But that was how it started. Did you ever think that woman that gave you the ebook?
I've looked for her.
Okay.
And
maybe she'll be watching. Maybe she'll be,
I've not been able to locate her. Because Yeah, I can't.
That would be
I can't
so
find
cool
her.
to come for full circle.
I would love to meet her. And I'd love to thank her. I'm not sure I'd be in business if it weren't for her.
If people, that's incredible. If people want to say, okay, I want to write an ebook, what do they do? How do they start?
Today, I'll tell you, it's a lot. Specific to an ebook, things are harder. Obviously, getting traffic and things like that is harder. It's more expensive to get eyeballs than it was back then. So I would say if you want to write a book today, that's great. My question would always be, okay, then what? Because simply saying I'm going to write a book and I'm going to make money from just the book, you're probably not, unless you've got an unlimited source of free traffic. Like if you've got a large following on social or something like that, and you can promote and drive awareness for free, then you got a shot.
Or would you pine it to be like a short guide rather than like, you know,
So what
something
I would
like that?
much rather do is, so here's the simplest way. It's so close to what I was doing back then. We really haven't changed it that much. If you're in a market and you want to generate leads, you want to sell these leads something, go to ChatGPT.
Okay.
Say to ChatGPT, insert a description of your ideal client here.
Okay.
Right? You are this. Tell me in your own words your 10 biggest problems, issues, or challenge when trying to achieve whatever end result you help your clients, people achieve.
I love
Right?
that. Okay.
It will then give you 10 and say, that's amazing. Give me 10 more. Give me 10 more. Do it until you got 30. That's what we refer to as problem statements.
Okay.
Those problem statements are gold because what they will tell you, they're a clear through line to the next thing that you should offer somebody.
I love
and
that.
And now if you go out there and you're messaging, so let's say on social, what should I produce a video on today? I don't know, maybe addressing one of these problem statements. Hey, if you've ever thought to yourself, insert problem statement here, because they have.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden people are like, wow, it's like you're talking directly to me.
Yeah.
It's like you're reading my mind. I didn't read their mind.
Right.
AI did.
Right.
Because it has the collective wisdom. We used to have to, the level of research that we used to have to do to get access to what we now can get in seconds from AI.
It's incredible.
It's ridiculous, but it is still the same thing. Then what do? Here's a guide. Here's a tool that will address this problem. Get them on a list, follow up with them. Now you can sell them whatever you need to sell them.
I love that.
So Ryan, your business, when did you feel like you started to get momentum and also having people start to recognize you as an expert in that space? Like, you know, I don't know if you felt this either. Even when that happened, did you start like to feel like me? Like, who am I? Like, why do they think this? You know, like, did you have to get over that too?
Yeah, I never, and still don't. I've never identified as an influencer or that. To me, I've always been a business person who talked about what I did. And so the idea that anybody would want to follow me or listen to me or know who I am still is something that I never sought out and I'm not entirely comfortable with. I'll do it. I remember I had dinner, this is years and years and years ago, to shamelessly name drop, with Gary Vaynerchuk. And I was saying to him, I was like, how can I build a business where I don't have to be the face of it? And he just went, you're an effing idiot. Why? He didn't say effing, he said the actual word. And he's like, why would you want to? And I'm like, because I don't want to be the person out front. I don't want to be known. And he's like, you're an idiot. If you'll be the person out front and you'll always point back to your brand, then you'll always have two brands.
Right.
And now, if you're always the best spokesperson for your brand, you can sell your company, but you'll still be here and you can point it at another one and another one and another one. And so to answer your question, like I remember more directly, I remember the first time I was going through the grocery store here in Austin, somebody went, "Are you Ryan Deiss?" I took my son when he was 10. He wanted to hike the Grand Canyon. And so we flew out to, Phoenix. I'm going there to rent a car to drive out to the Grand Canyon, waiting there in the rental car line. And the guy's like, "Are you Ryan Deiss?" And that was the first time my son's like, "Who are you?" So,
Dad, what?
But for me, it happened so early in my career because I've always just talked about what I was doing. So I've always been doing it, and I've always been, internet famous, niche famous to a certain extent. And it happened early, so it's always been a part of who I am. I've never been comfortable with it. I've never liked it, but I believe that every CEO, every founder, your highest calling and your highest leveraged day job is to be a spokesperson for your brand.
Yeah.
Period. I mean, Look at all the biggies out there.
Yeah.
That's what they all do at the end of the day. So now I do it.
No, I do it. I love it. What do you love most about it?
I love getting to connect with our customers and clients and the people whose lives we've changed. Mm-hmm. And it's cool because we operate 17 different companies across our portfolio group. And I'm not the face of most of them. But for the ones that I am the face of, there are people who have come to me and said, you completely changed my life. And I think everybody should hear that at least once in their life.
I mean,
you know,
and I'm
blessed. I get to hear it a lot.
That's awesome.
You know, there's a downside too. I also get to hear from the nut jobs who are like, whatever. And so I think you have to develop, you have to develop some filters on that. But that's without a doubt my favorite part. And I think that is, and I joke, I speak crassly to say I'm in it for the money. I mean, look, we all got to eat. But it is really fun to see your work actually move the needle for people in some small way.
What is one thing, Ryan, that you would never, ever do again? Because, I mean, obviously that's how we learn. We fail forward. But, like, what is one thing you're like, you know what? I'm never doing that again.
I'm at a point right now in my career, I like to never say never. Starting another business from scratch right now, I don't see in the cards.
Okay.
I have started so many businesses from scratch. And I'm now at a point, our entire business model, everything that I do right now is a blatant front for M&A efforts. Because all I want to do is play in other people's sandboxes and help them build it. I have so much respect for startup founders and people starting businesses because I know just how absolutely freaking hard it is.
Yeah.
I like to never say never, but a commitment that I made to myself this year was I will not start a new business at least this year.
At least this year.
And so far, I'm really loving
not
having a new one.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So can you tell us how you got on the GrowthCon stage that first time? There were some big names there and big crowd, obviously, probably the biggest crowd you'd ever spoken in front of prior. But like, how did that relationship with Grant, or was it somebody on his team, or, you know, I know I'm friends with Jared Glant and all those guys. But yeah, how did that all transpire? And then what came from being on stage at GrowthCon on the 30-some thousand people?
Well, I mean, I'll speak to the second one first. I think I did like $1.5 million in sales. So that didn't suck.
Yeah.
And what was cool about that is I wasn't planning on selling. So I was talking to Grant before then, and he's like, hey, I need you to make an offer. Because I think Grant did the math, and he's like, wow, it turns out renting Marlin Stadium is pretty expensive. And I think he did fine. Grant's doing fine. But he's like, hey, let's go ahead and sell. Because originally it was, I don't typically, when I speak, I don't typically pitch. I don't typically make a sale. I don't think there's anything wrong with it as long as you actually deliver independently valuable content on stage. I hate going to a talk and it's clear that this entire thing is just engineered to get me to buy something.
Right.
And there is no value in the content itself.
Yeah.
I know how to do that. I get it. It's just not what the people paid for.
Yeah.
We built a very large event that we ran for over a decade that we sold for a whole lot of tens of millions of dollars on the back of there's going to actually be good content here. Mm-hmm. And guess what? People just kept coming back because there was. That being said, anytime I go speak somewhere, if the host asks me to do something, as long as it's, legal, moral, ethical, like I feel like I'm there to serve them first and then the audience. Make sure that I do that. But ultimately, they're the one paying, right? So I got to make sure that I do that. And so he asked me. I was happy to do that. I felt like we had a relevant offer, and so generate immediate revenue. But oh my gosh, so many great, phenomenal clients, like future clients. Mm-hmm. I think anytime you can get on stage, mm-hmm. whether that stage is a physical stage or a digital stage, podcast, things like that. Absolutely. The platform that it gives you, even if you're not a big deal, it makes you look like a big deal. Yeah. And so people take you more seriously. So that I'm answering your second question first. Yeah. How I got there, it's a guy that was on my team for years and years and years, still a dear friend, Marcus Murphy. I am an introvert. I don't like talking to people. I grew up in the dare culture of school where I was told that strangers want to stab you and sell you drugs.
Yes.
Right? And so I'm the kind of person, I get on an airplane, my headphones are already on, even if I'm not listening
stranger
to anything.
Danger, everybody.
Like, do not talk to me.
Yeah.
And then there's Marcus.
I hate to sit next to me.
No, I know. No, I'd be like,
he was your worst nightmare.
Nope. But every one of me needs a
Yeah,
huge.
exactly.
And you got to have this in your life. And for me, that person, was formally and now informally, because he still is a dear friend who makes lots of connections for me, Marcus Murphy. And Marcus was my head of partnerships, and he's just phenomenal at forming relationships. But there's so many people who are good at forming relationships, but they don't know how to transition that relationship into a business relationship.
Right.
So they got a lot of buddies, but they're broke.
Yeah.
He's phenomenal at forming relationships, but then figuring out how to turn that into a business relationship in a way where everybody's happy. It's
And
not
how, like, people that were like, how do I do that? What would you say?
well. So
Without it being awkward, without someone feeling like, oh, you're cool with me because of, it's tricky.
I don't know. I think anybody can learn anything.
Yeah.
I think if you're the kind of person who gets on an airplane and you put on headphones, you're going to really struggle with this, and you're probably going to suck at it. So you've got to decide, am I going to develop the skill? And I can speak to it because I have done it. But the shortcut is get somebody in your life who just does it naturally.
Yeah.
And get them sold on you and your vision. Because if you can get that person on your team, you're done.
Yeah.
You only got to sell one person ever.
Yeah.
And you sell that one person on you, they'll sell 1,000. And that's what Marcus did. Marcus decided that, we're a marketing, the company that we had at the time that was aligned with them, digitalmarketer.com. We're marketing. Grant is sales. We don't talk about sales. They don't talk about marketing. What an obvious connection. And so how Marcus got connected to them, I don't freaking know. I don't really care.
You're like, I don't care.
And that's the thing, because I don't have to know how to do that, because I did know how to get a Marcus.
Right.
And so I will just say that. Now, how I did it before then, how I've done it since, you have to turn it into a game.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I would do if I would walk into a networking situation, I would make myself go and connect with at least 10 people.
Okay.
I would make sure that I always ask them at least 5 questions before I said anything about me.
Mm-hmm.
And because my tendency is to talk and ramble, as is demonstrated as recently as just now. Yeah. I mean, well, if as long as we're rambling, then they can't stab you.
That's what the...
I'm telling you, introverts will ramble because we have control then.
Yes.
And so when you ask questions, I would force myself, I would actually press my tongue to the roof of my mouth as a reminder, shut up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let a pregnant pause occur before you jump in.
Yes.
And those 3 things count, like I'm going to meet X number of people, I'm going to ask X number of questions, and I'm going to press the tongue to the roof of my mouth and wait till I'm finished before I speak.
I love it.
Just that made me a better networker.
I love it.
And Ryan, so I've been mentored by some of the greatest people on the planet, and I'm very thankful for them. And I'm also very grateful that I was able to absorb the information, not all the time, like consciously right away. It was like, just absorbed it, right? One of the things I learned was that the most attractive thing you could do in relationships and in business is to cause and create futures for and with people, right? And how can you do that if you're not listening to them, right? Because you got to hear what they need and hear what their challenges are and what they're struggling with. So when you're marketing and you're talking to people, not like in a necessarily one-on-one situation, but you're marketing to the masses as well, have you thought about like how attractive causing, like that literal statement, causing and creating futures for people, how attractive that is?
It's everything. Nobody stays with you for what you did. They always will stay with you and continue working with you for the promise of future value. So if that's true for existing happy clients, how much more true is it for people who don't already know, like, and trust you?
Right.
So everything in marketing, the core essence of marketing is simply meeting people where they are, empathetically acknowledging where they are in their before state. So what I talked about before, problem statements. What is that really? That is empathizing and saying, I hear you, I see you, right? But we don't want to leave them there because that empathy alone gets you a buddy, but there's no hope.
Right.
And so what we have to do is meet them where they are while at the same time painting a picture of a brighter tomorrow. So what is their less desirable before state? How can we articulate that and make sure that they know that we understand where they are? Then what is their more desirable after state? How can we paint a picture of that? Then everything else in marketing, if they know that we know where they are, if we can articulate where they want to be, and it is in fact what they want,
Right.
everything between those 2 things is simply belief. Do I believe that you have the vehicle that's going to take me there? Do I believe that you're a worthy guide? You as an individual, your brand? And do I believe that it will work for me? And so the vast majority of marketing is really trying to make up for the gap.
Right.
But where most marketers fail is actually at the before and the after. They spend so much time trying to figure out the gap and convince everybody that we're better because of this and all these features and look at our track record and all this. Like, nobody's listening, nobody cares, because you never connected with them in the before state and you never gave them hope by what you just stated, which is to paint that picture of a better, brighter future. Empathy plus hope is what creates the connection. Everything else is just the logical mind justifying the decision that it's already made.
Right. Those are some gems right there. Like, I hope you picked it up. I mean, he says that you say them so eloquently as well. So what's next for you? What's going on, like, in the future for you? What's your hope? If you're like, okay, if you were to tell, like, yourself right now, like, in 20 years from now, what's going on?
I hope I'm doing the exact same thing.
Really?
Because I'm really having fun.
I don't think anyone's ever said that. Like, I don't ask that question on repeat, but like when I'm like, oh, where do you, what's your next thing, or what do you pop it off? And no one's been like, I want to be exactly where I am right now.
Yeah. No, I mean,
I love that.
It's great.
Because you were there. That means you're at your like most radiant self. You're at like the Ryan, like you want to be.
I want to be a better version of this, but in terms of what I'm doing right now, our whole business model is I get to work with entrepreneurs. So my main company today, my day job, is the Scalable Company. And so what we do is we work with business owners who are kind of at that mid 7-figure mark and they're stuck to break through 8 figures and become exitable. It's actually a fairly small addressable market. We call it the Fortune 5.91 million, right? There's not a ton of them out there, but they're my people.
Yeah.
Right? They're absolutely my people. And so what that entire business is it's us getting paid to essentially do due diligence on a business. I've sold companies to private equity. I know the pros and the cons of it. It's really great. I like the check. But the other side of it, working with them, they're usually not great operators. They're not great builders.
Right.
They're on kind of this 3 to 5 and 3 to 5. We want to 3 to 5X you in 3 to 5 years, and we want to flip you to somebody else to do the same kind of thing. They're not usually building a ton of value. And so all I want to do is provide an alternative for entrepreneurs who aren't yet ready for that private equity thing. They're not yet ready to exit, but they're stuck.
Yeah.
And so that's what we get to do. And in doing that, we get paid well for the services that we provide. And we also get to date these businesses and say, hey, does it make sense for us to partner up on some of these things?
I love it.
And so that's how we're building the portfolio. And some of them will be in business forever, I hope. And some of them we will sell because we have an exit advisory company as well. But that's all I want to do is just hang out with entrepreneurs, build companies, add value, play in other people's sandboxes so I never have to start another business again.
And I love how he brings it back.
Let me tell you
he
something.
brought it back.
Yeah, I've started a lot of businesses, and I don't know
Yeah.
why I keep doing it. I got to take your advice on your own advice that you're giving yourself, because I don't know, man. I love creating though, and I like creating my way. But there is something to what you said, 100%. So, how did you and Roland get together? How did you meet him? Did you hear about him? Did he hear about you? And then how do you guys play off each other with your strengths and weaknesses?
So, I mean, Roland definitely heard about me. I'm so much more famous than he is. No, but so Roland was actually, I ran a mastermind. We had a Boardroom mastermind for 13 years. We sunset that and have a different one. But Roland was a member starting in year 2. And I will tell you, it sounds self-serving, but I'm not even going to mention the name of ours or anything like that because I don't want somebody to think I'm saying this to like kind of pump my book or anything like that. If you're a business owner and you're not in a mastermind, foolish, short-sighted, foolish. You must hate money, hate puppies, and I guess want the terrorists to win. There's no. It has been the ultimate shortcut for me in my career, and in hosting them, it's where all of my best connections have come from. But yeah, he joined that mastermind, and all he did for the first 2 years, he didn't ask anybody anything. He took notes of what people were talking about, and he shared the notes with everybody. At the end, the way that we finished all of our meetings was this contest we called Wicked Smart. And it was everybody had to present their coolest, best, most awesomest, wickedest smart idea. And he won it just all the time. So all he did was give. And finally, I'm like, who are you?
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah.
You knew who he was though?
I knew he was one of our members. So yeah, I knew his business. But I'm like,
this guy's winning left and right.
I was like,
who is this
okay,
guy?
freaking Batman. Like, I knew that there was more behind the scenes that he was kind of letting on.
Yes.
And And what he said to me though, he said so many of my great like breakthroughs and watershed moments started with somebody saying, "You're kind of an idiot." And now he said, "I think you're kind of an idiot." I was like, "Tell me more."
What a great response. Tell me more.
Tell me more.
Yeah.
And he said, "You got people showing up to this group. We're paying what, $25,000-$30,000 a year to hang out, and I know people who are in here who you've added millions and millions of dollars to their business, and you got 30,000. You should be doing equity deals with everybody in this room." And I went, "That's a great idea. I have no idea what you're talking about." And he broke it down. He Roland's a recovering attorney. He had done M&A deals, had literally probably been a part of 1,000 of them as a part of his law firm back in the day.
Sure.
And so he broke it down for me, and I was like, "Cool. I know how to do it. I'm still terrified of doing it. We should go in business together."
What were you fearful of?
Oh, what was I fearful of? The fact that I didn't know the first, second, or third step, and I didn't know how to get in it or out of it. I was afraid of being the dog that caught in the car. Like, what if I get a deal? Then what? There were just so many things I didn't know, and at the time, the stakes felt so high, right?
Yeah, because the numbers are bigger.
Yeah.
I know now it's really not.
Well, I hate to keep doing this, but hey, guys, just stay with us with this microphone. But on that, thinking about your past, how many things did you really know how to do that you've accomplished prior to committing to it?
Yeah, none of them. And that's what I said. I mean, I decided I was going to do web design. It's arbitrary. Yeah. All of the boundaries that we place on ourselves are, to a certain extent, arbitrary.
Right.
Now, I guess, look, if I decided I was going to play in the NBA, that might be a little bit of a... Those of you who can't see, I'm about like 5'6" in shoes, right? So probably not, certainly not at 44. I'm not going to be playing in the NBA. But within certain reasonable, rational limits, we have so much more scope and ability than we give ourselves credit for.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, that was a block for me. And I needed somebody... I think it felt like real business. I think I never gave myself credit. 100%. I think I never gave myself credit for actually being a good business person.
Yeah.
Because I just kind of started something from my dorm room. I didn't have a business degree. I'll go back and I'll actually speak twice a year. I'll do a visiting lecture at UT. There's a couple of professors I'll go and speak in their classes, and they'll introduce me as a graduate of the UT Business School.
Wow.
I'm like, no, I'm not.
Like, I actually am not.
Y'all wouldn't let me in. But he taught me. He laid out that whole thing. We also another one of the way that we got in business is the company I was running at the time. I made a really bad hire, and the company almost went bankrupt because of like my abdication of responsibility to a person, burying my head in the sand, not watching, not minding my own business. And basically I was out of money, just about broke, needed about $1 million. And, thankfully he had it. So he bought into the business, and that's how we became business partners.
Wow. That's incredible. I always feel like you are fully equipped, and the rest you can learn. So like, go for it.
Yeah,
right?
I completely rationally agree with you in that, and I have said yes more than I've said no. I'm very empathetic to the people who are scared.
Yeah.
But God dang it. Yeah. I mean, if there's one lesson I've learned, it's like, just do it anyway. Going back to the first question you asked about public speaking.
Yeah.
Order yourself appropriately in the universe. You probably don't matter that much. Right?
Nobody cares.
Realize that if you fail, nobody's paying that close attention.
So it's interesting because like when you're on live television, and it's nerve-wracking because there's no smoke and mirrors. Like you screw up, everyone sees you, right? But it's like really no one cares. It's the same thing. They're doing their laundry, they're feeding their kids breakfast. They're not really paying attention. And actually, it's endearing when people screw up because you're not perfect, and then they see you're not perfect.
I think especially on live TV now.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, you had. So you did live TV news type stuff.
Of course.
I had one of my directors of communication was a former news anchor here in Austin and in San Diego. Wonderful lady, brilliant, total goober in person, like just total goofball, right? Hilarious. All the personality
serious
in the world. No, I mean, you bring it here. Like that's what I like. When you said that you were on TV, I was like, I wonder, but you don't go into like most people who are on TV, the smallest camera could be in the room and they instantly go into like,
it's on. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that's what she did. And so I tell her, like, she's like, why don't you ever put me on camera? Have me go. I was like, and one time I did it and I was like, I will never do that again. Yeah. Because you're too perfect.
Yeah.
And our brand, like the digital marketer brand in particular, we're goobers, we're Forrest Gump. Like we're trying to make this thing simple. And I was like, you can do all the PR, all the things, love you to death, manage comms. I just can't put you on TV.
Yeah.
Because you're just too perfect.
Yeah.
And I think that what people want now is somebody to be a little bit more real. And so, apart from you shouldn't be afraid because nobody really cares, I think they, to the point you made, they prefer it.
Yeah, they do.
They prefer it.
They do. I love that.
So when I heard you mention something about $1 million, needing $1 million. From the outside, I have this saying, from the outside, it's never as good as it looks from the outside for other people. And when you're in the inside, as bad as it feels what you're going through, it's never as bad as it really is, right? So when you were going through that, though, because on the outside, they know Ryan Deiss for what you do. And, man, he's got it all made. He's got it, everything together. Everything works perfect. But entrepreneurship's like a lonely feeling because nobody really gets you and what you're going through, right? So what was going through your mind at that time before Roland came in and helped out? And, like, were you having trouble sleeping when you woke up in the morning? What was going through your mind? All that.
Yeah, I thought I had utterly failed as a man, as a husband, as a provider to my children. I thought we were done for. Like, the business was done. I was going to be personally bankrupt. Everybody would be laughing at me. Like, I thought that was it. Looking back on it, it wasn't that big a deal. And now fast forward a couple years later, 2016, that year we had 3 different companies simultaneously on the Inc. 500 and 5,000 list. And so from the outside looking in, crushing it. You know, I mean, just absolutely crushing it. Speaking on stages, wow, you must be a big deal. But boy, we were redlining it. I mean, what's amazing as a business owner, you can make a lot of top line, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's all going to trickle down to the bottom or that any of it will trickle down to the bottom.
Right.
And apart from like losing money, I was burned out. I was stressed out. I was leaving for work before the kids were awake. I was getting home after everybody was asleep. And I remember coming home, it was after midnight one night, and turning the handle of my master bedroom, walking in, expecting my wife to be asleep, and she was still sitting up in bed. And she's like, look, you can keep doing what you're doing. Like, I know who I married, but you can't pretend like you're doing it for us anymore.
Yeah.
And that was the moment when I was like, my priorities are out of whack.
Yeah.
I got to get this thing figured out. And so the advice that I give to entrepreneurs is be really selfish, because media, society, like startup culture tells you that really it's your job to sacrifice yourself, your soul, your health, your sanity, everything you hold dear at the altar of this thing that you call a business. I say screw all that. You are creating this thing in service of you, the stakeholders, and the people that you love. And it doesn't mean that there won't be late nights.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you're not going to have to like hustle and grind. Like that comes with the territory. It's why when it works, you get to, live in the big house and drive the fast car. But when it starts to just be the only thing and it starts to completely own you, that is when it's time to figure out something different. Because the capacity for entrepreneurs to endure insane amounts of pain and agony is greater than almost any group I think I've ever seen. And so looking back on it, I was utterly terrified, but there was no question that I was going to continue to push through. 2016. And now that I've brought the business to the brink a number of times, now I've experienced significant business failures and significant successes. What I realize is it's scar tissue. It's like anything else. You're like, that's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
What would have just broke me? It's like Tuesday. It's not that big a deal.
This too shall pass.
Yeah, it's fine.
Good or bad.
It's fine. And so the stakes aren't ever as high as you think they are. So for the love of God, like make sure that you understand why you're doing it, what you're doing it, and then it's generally moving in that direction, because you're not creating this business for the sake of the business itself. You are creating it. Just accept it. You should be in it for the money. Yes, there's a mission. Yes, there is. But that mission will go the second that you run out of cash.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just love that you're saying that, because a lot of people are like, will not say that. They're like, no, I do it for the love, for the passion. Oh. And it's like, you know what? You got to feed your kids.
That's a cop out. That is an absolute cop out for continuing to run a really inefficient business.
Yeah.
It is an excuse that entrepreneurs make for not having to learn the skills that they need at the next level.
Yeah.
And so just accept the fact that no, this has to get better. I have to get better at this. It means learning new skills. It's a new mountain that I'm climbing. But it is scary. Yeah. Freak me out.
And that's why Before you mentioned something about your wife, and Brian Smith, who founded Ugg Boots, told me the story one time when he was on his living room floor crying like a baby. And thank God for our wives, supportive spouses out there, partners out there. I mean, she said, "Get your ass up and be a man," or something. And he went back up. He sold his company, got his company back, and then that became Ugg Boots. And my wife, one time, I was breaking down in my kitchen. I had a mortgage operation, and I was just done, right? And I felt like the weight of the world on my shoulders. I felt like I was responsible for all the families, not just the employees, but their kids, their wives. I was just piling it on, right? And I guess like trying to be I don't know what it is, right? And I broke down in my kitchen for the first time ever in front of my wife, and I just was like, I can't take it anymore. I just can't take it. And I surrendered. I was just like, whatever, And I remember her saying, "We'll figure it out. Like it was no big deal." And I was like, "What? What do you mean?"
Quick story. I got to brag on my wife a little bit here. So, because I want to be clear, that night when she said that, it wasn't an ultimatum. She wasn't saying like, do this or like, I'm out. She was like, if you got to keep doing it, fine. But stop, because she was my first why. I started the business to buy her a ring. Oh. I wanted to grow it so I could.
I'm such a romantic. Right? I love that. Yeah.
No, but I
love that you still remember that and you still realize that. Of course.
Yeah. And what she was saying is like, that you can't say that's true anymore because now it's about the business. And let's be honest, it was about me. It was my own ego. And so what she was really saying is you can't pretend like you're doing it for us anymore because let's be honest, you're doing it for you. Yeah. And she was right. And sometimes we need people in our lives to hold up a mirror in front of our face and say, "You like that? You like what you say? Is that what you were going for there?" And one at a time, because I mean, again, I brought my business to the brink half a dozen times. In this case, I sort of forgot to pay taxes for a year. And because I didn't know I was supposed to. This was very, very early on in my business career. And I remember just freaking out, panicking. I owed $250,000 to the IRS, didn't know where it was going to come from. And I'm freaking out. She just let me go. And finally she went, "I don't know why you're freaking out so much. You'll figure it out. You always do." And I just remember it being so nonchalant. I was like, I guess I will. Yeah. I guess I will. And she got up and she went to bed. And I remember
that's something I would do. Like, okay, you'll figure it out.
I remember going to be like, "Can I have permission to mope for a day?" She's like, "You can have a day, and then you better get back to work." So
I love that.
I think you have to have people around you, who will hold up mirrors. You have to have people around you who will love you unconditionally, win, lose, or draw. And you have to have people around you who will call you on your BS and just tell you when you'll be an arrogant prick. And the combination of all those things, I think, boy, without that, I wouldn't have made it. Just me sitting by myself somewhere, I wouldn't have made it.
This is so fantastic. All right, we can talk to you for all day. Where can everybody find you if they want to follow you and all those good things?
I post anything I have ever said that is kind of smart. I try to say it again on YouTube. Okay. So that people can. I'm trying just to get like kind of capture all the business stuff that I figured out and get it on YouTube. It's happening slowly, like 1 week at a time. But there's some pretty good stuff up there, and it's totally free. So if you want that, it's there. And scalable.co is kind of my, like I said, my main job, the Scalable company. My main job. And if you want marketing stuff, that's at digitalmarketer.com. So there you go. There's a couple options.
God, so many gems. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here with us. I took away lots of gems. And then the biggest one was that you brought it full circle to like your why, as to like you started off to buy your beautiful wife a ring. And then look what you built. So kudos to you. So thank you so much for being here in Austin during South by Southwest. C-Roc. Thank you.
Be that one, baby. Be that one. Make sure you guys subscribe too. Don't put any time in there. Sorry, Ryan. Don't put any time. Subscribe right now. Go find a way to subscribe to the podcast. Support our guest Ryan Deiss and his companies. We appreciate you. Keep coming back and be that one.